Hello, my name's Rob Edwards and welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today it's time for episode 2 of The Natter. The jacket's a bit much, isn't it? Let me take the jacket off. So we're time for another roundup of various different news stories that I found interesting in the last couple of weeks. This is all quick fire stuff, we've got a lot to get to, so let's get straight to it. First up, and most interesting, and I'm excited about it. Let me explain. It has been announced that the showrunner that will be replacing Chris Chibnall on Doctor Who will be Russell T Davies, the showrunner who brought Doctor Who back to our screens in 2005 with Christopher Eccleston's Ninth Doctor. Let me start with the facts. He's coming back. The first thing he's going to deal with is the 60th anniversary episode of Doctor Who, which is happening in 2023. And also, presumably for that, casting the 14th Doctor. He's then going to be staying for the series after that. Now, I've read the series after that a couple of times. I don't know whether that necessarily means the one series after that, whether Russell is coming back as a very short-term showrunner, or whether that series going forwards, and we're going to see a lot more from him in the coming years. I am very much in two minds. First, though, on the positive side, there's no getting away from it that I loved Russell T Davies' original Doctor Who era. Sure, there are episodes which are stronger and weaker. I mean, that's true in every era of Doctor Who. But in terms of actually putting good Who on the screen, I really enjoyed RTD's era. There are some fantastic episodes in there, and some of them are from guest writers, but some of them absolutely from Russell T Davies himself. Russell's book, The Writer's Tale, is absolutely fascinating. It's a look back at that era of Doctor Who, and a lot of it is told essentially as sort of diary entries about what's going on in his life as he's going through the production of the show. And I have to say, reading some of this back in the day, I'm kind of surprised to see him back, because I get the impression that most of the time that Russell was on the show was kind of stressful. So I don't know quite, what would drive him back to this. I think maybe because he got to miss out on the 50th anniversary. I think Stephen Moffat blew us all away with Day of the Doctor, and I am super excited. I mean, the one hugely positive thing that I will take away from this news is that if anyone can bring us a 60th anniversary episode worthy of the name, it is RTD. I am so excited about something being big and bombastic and in your face and celebratory. I think that is going to be great. But why am I ambivalent? I mean, not to say RTD's had his shot. He's entirely happy for him to come back, but it feels like a step backwards. Doctor Who has always been about moving forwards into new eras, changes for the future, and this feels a bit retrograde. It feels a little bit like the safe choice. And I don't want Doctor Who necessarily to be safe. Safe is what killed it back in the 80s. Not taking any risks leads to stagnation. Now, the problem with taking risks, of course, is you end up with series like we had with Chibnall, where risks were taken and the results were not ones we liked, or I liked, certainly. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't be taking risks. And my only worry, really, about RTD coming back to the show is that it is falling back onto nostalgia, and I think Doctor Who needs to be more forward-looking with that. That said, if I was given the choice between another series with Chibnall and a series with RTD, I would absolutely choose RTD. So I think on balance I'm probably positive about this, but with reservations. Speaking of changes, Wheel of Time news. And this one's a bit of an oddity, really. The news that as of season 2, Matt, one of the central characters of the show, of the books, one of the Emmonsfield Five, Matt is going to be replaced. So Barney Harris plays him in season 1, which we have yet to see. That's coming in November. And he's going to be replaced by an actor called Donald Finn in season 2. Now, I've not really seen either of these actors at work. I cannot tell you who I'm more excited to see in this role. Maybe Donald Finn will be brilliant, maybe Barney will be brilliant, maybe they both will. Maybe neither of them will. Don't know until I see it, so I'm going to hold judgment on that. But, generally speaking, a change like this, it's a knock against the show. Even if the replacement is even better than Barney's wonderful performance. We have no idea if this is true. But even if it is that case, there is a knock against the show for having had to replace a central character like that. Other shows get away with it, but there are other shows which are sort of sitcoms, replacing secondary characters. Shows manage it, and I have no doubt Wheel of Time will manage it as well. But the fact that this change has been necessitated, and we really don't know why, we don't know what the circumstances are, I'm not going to speculate about what the circumstances are. But the fact that there is a change is a cause for concern. That said, I'm still super excited to see season 1. I'm still super excited to see Barney Harris as Matt. And I am also excited to see Donald Finn when he takes the role in season 2, because that means I'm excited for season 2. So, yeah, a strange one, this one. We've had the trailer for the new Hawkeye show, which is coming to Disney Plus also in November. I am going to be extremely busy at the end of this year making videos, because I am going to want to react to at least respond to. I'm not doing reaction videos, but I will want to respond to at least Hawkeye, at least Wheel of Time, at least Doctor Who, at least I'm slightly worried that I'm going to spend an awful lot of time in front of this video camera talking nonsense at you, which, I hope you think that's a good thing, but it is a concern of mine. Nevertheless, Hawkeye looks fantastic. It looks like Marvel is doing Christmas hijinks, mixed and crossed with a Matt Fraction run of comics from Marvel Comics. Now, again, I say this every time Marvel Comics versus DC comes up. I am more of a DC fan than a Marvel fan, but that doesn't mean there aren't Marvel books that I've enjoyed. And Matt Fraction's run on Hawkeye was amazing. I absolutely loved it. One of the best things I've read from Marvel in years. So I am very excited to see Clint and Kate, the two Hawkeyes in this show, essentially, making their live-action debut together in this Disney Plus show. And I am very excited to watch it, bro. Yeah. It looks great. It looks really fun. There's a nice Christmas vibe to it. There's Hawkeye looking kind of battered and beaten, but still standing up. We see a brief shot in the trailer of Hawkeye wearing his hearing aid, which is sort of very key to his character in the comic books. We see a brief flash of a character I believe is Echo, which is Kingpin's adopted daughter. We see the Tracksuit Mafia. There's lots of really fun-looking stuff, fun-looking details that are callbacks to various elements of Hawkeye lore. But against that, lots of action scenes, lots of Marvel comedy that feels... I love it. I love the Marvel comedy. It feels a bit weird because presumably Clint is still recovering from Endgame at this point. And all of the stuff that happened with him and Ronin and his family being snapped away and all of that side of things. But I don't know. I just love a fun story, and I think that's exactly what we're going to get from this. While we're still in the Marvel arena, I haven't been doing reviews of What If, but I did want to talk a little bit about the show as it's gone on from when we last talked about it. And I have to say, I think for the first time for a long time in the MCU, I'm a little bit cold on What If. There have been individual episodes I've enjoyed, certainly individual moments that I've thought have been brilliant, but it's just not quite hanging together for me. And I guess it's not supposed to hang together because it is supposed to be an anthology show and every episode should be different. I think actually that is the stem of the problem for me, because it is relatively clear at this point, partly from trailers we've seen, partly from the way so many episodes end on a downer, on a cliffhanger, that we are going to start bringing things together at the end of the season. And I just don't feel connected to most of these characters. And perhaps that's just a function of What If. Perhaps because we're only getting a sort of half-hour episodes in animated format, that, it's not building the connection we would like for these characters. I'm not getting the rapport for these variants of the characters we know that I would like to see. But I don't dislike the show. I kind of watch every episode and go, oh, okay, yeah, that was another episode of What If. And I'm not really terribly excited for the new episode coming out on Wednesday. I'm just not. That said, as we do build up to what is clearly building up to a finale where the Watcher is possibly going to have to interfere after all, because I think a lot of the cliffhangers we've seen this season are going to come back, and we're going to have to deal with some of those. I don't know. Let us see where we go from here. What If basically not really been doing it for me, though. Last up from me, a bit of a variation for us today. We're not talking about a show or a movie, but we're talking about Dungeons & Dragons. This last weekend just happened, D&D Celebration, which is a thing which Wizards of the Coast do on Twitch mostly, and they get people in to preview books which are coming up, do some live plays and all this kind of good stuff. I confess I didn't watch much of it. In fact, I don't think I watched any of it live, because life is too short. I have a lot going on at the moment. So I didn't get to see, but I have seen a few of the news stories which have started to filter out of it. In particular, I watched some of the highlights of the discussion of the new Strixhaven adventure, which is coming up in a couple of months, and also some previews of Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, which is coming out next month. I'm excited for both of those books, and I have actually pre-ordered both of those books in one form or another, so it's nice to know that what I'm getting still looks quite promising from my pre-orders. I like a lot of what I'm seeing about Strixhaven. I don't know if I've got a D&D group to play it with. We'll see, but I'm really quite interested in how that's going to hang together. And Treasury of Dragons, Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, looks super, super exciting as well. But two things that they talked about in D&D Celebrations, kind of the future of D&D, are particularly interesting. Two and a bit things are really interesting. First of all, the bit, they talked rather cryptically about new settings for Dungeons & Dragons, and they have reiterated again that they are going to be revisiting an established D&D campaign setting in the coming months. Now, is that going to be Dragonlance and Kryn, or is it going to be Planescape and Spelljammer and that kind of sort of area? I'm kind of jonesing for some more Dragonlance, but a bit of preview art they showed has made me think that we're looking possibly more towards the next campaign setting that we'll see will be a Spelljammer setting. Now, I confess I have no connection with Spelljammer. It's one of those settings which never really kind of got onto my radar. But if that's the way we're going, I might look at it. I might look at it because the idea of this sort of multiversal big ships travelling between dimensions sounds kind of fun. So maybe I'll have a look at that. If it's Dragonlance, I will absolutely take it because I am super, super excited. I know we didn't see any previews from Fizban's about Draconians, but there are supposedly Draconians in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, so I hope that we do see that. Another thing which we talked about, which I'm looking forward to, is there is a gift set of books, not new books actually. There's a gift set of books coming out in January, which will combine Xanathar's Guide to Everything, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and a new book which I think is called Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse, or something like that. Mordenkainen presents Monsters of the Multiverse. And that is going to be a collection of monsters and monster stat blocks collected from all sorts of different places within established D&D lore. So it might take stuff from Volo's and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, but it's also going to grab stuff from some of the adventures and some of the world books and things like that and combine them all in one place. It sounds really interesting to me because I haven't necessarily got all of those books, certainly not in physical format. I've got a few of them in digital on Roll20 and D&D Beyond and places like that. But to have them all in one place would be really great. Now, I'm not going to buy this gift set because I don't want another copy of Tasha's and Xanathar's, but they have said the Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse will be available at a later date in standalone format as well. So I'm really looking forward to getting hold of that. In particular, I'm super excited, and they did mention in D&D Celebration that this book would have 30 playable races in it, and is going to be a collection of those. So, if I've not bought Van Richten's, or I've not bought Wild Beyond the Witchlight, because I've got plenty of campaign books already to play, I've missed out on things like the Harangon and the Fairy playable races. Presumably that will get republished in Mordenkainen's Presents Monsters of the Multiverse. That is going to take a while to get a hang of saying. So, hopefully get to see some of that. But the biggest, not news, hint of a news, let's put it like that we got from D&D Celebration is a look forward to 2024. Because 2024 is the 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons. And they announced officially, I think we'd all been sort of hinting that this might be the case, they announced officially that come 2024 there will be a release of the core books of Dungeons and Dragons, again a fresh, new, updated and adapted version. Now I've titled this 6E ? It is not 6th edition as far as I can tell from what the few hints that were dropped in D&D Celebration. It is not going to be a full-blown 6E. It might be closer, more akin to 5.5E. But to revisit some classes and the class features they have, to give them some polish, maybe make the range playable, that kind of thing. So I'm really interested about that. They've said that all of it will be backwards compatible, so you're not wasting time buying books for 5e now, because they will still be playable when this new version comes out. So I think that means it is more 5.5 than 6e. So ignore my 6e here. It is not 6e. But I think that's going to be really interesting, and I'm quite excited to see what it's going to look like. Whether it's going to have, the Artificer maybe in the player's handbook. There may be like 4 or 5 subclasses for every class in the player's handbook. This would make that one tome a really worthwhile purchase, even if you've got them all from other sources already. So there we go, another episode of the Natter done and dusted. I hope you enjoyed that. I will revisit this format. I've decided whenever I have a whole collection of news stories that I want to talk about that don't really have enough in them to make an entire video about. So keep your eyes out for another episode of the Natter coming up, and we will see what next week holds. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Cheers.